The hidden dangers of processed foods and how they are wrecking our health. So do you ever wonder what's really in your food? That so-called healthy snack that's in your cupboard? Or when you go and buy a burger from McDonald's or just breakfast cereal? Those foods might be doing you more harm than good, and more harm than you think. Processed foods are everywhere. But behind those flashy labels and the so-called healthy claims, there's this hidden world of dangerous ingredients, chemicals, and deceptive marketing tricks, which are designed to keep us addicted and unhealthy. They're designed to do that. So in today's video, we're exposing the truth about processed foods and how they're designed to make you overeat, disrupt your hormones, and damage your gut, and also speeding up aging. So if you want to take control of your health and you want to live to a ripe old age, and that includes being able to get up off the toilet on your own when you're in your 70s, key stuff, quite important, then keep listening, because it might be able to give you some information that might just change the way you think about these foods forever. For those of you who haven't met me before, my name's Emma Voysey and I'm a health coach. And my channel is all about empowering you with the knowledge you need to transform your health by the choices you make, the foods that you eat, the way that you move yourself, the lifestyle decisions that you choose will dictate whether or not you are able to live to a ripe old age, healthy, pain-free, medication-free, or whether things don't go as well as that for you. And also to the knowledge that you can make changes. You live in that body and you know yourself better than anybody else does, better than any doctor does, better than any medical professional. And with the right knowledge, you will be able to make changes to your health just like I made to mine, and completely transform and reverse conditions that maybe you've been told are irreversible, or maybe you've been told you're just going to have to learn to live with it and take this medicine because there's nothing else for it but to mask the symptoms so that you don't feel the pain anymore. It doesn't have to be like that, and that's what my channel is all about, is just learning the stuff you need to know to get you into your 60s, 70s, 80s and beyond, pain-free, medication-free, and living your very best life in your amazing body. I had to put my hat back on because it's actually, the sun's out, but it's raining. It was snowing when I woke up this morning, so I had to wait for a break in the weather to come out into the mountain. First off, what exactly are processed foods? Let's define what we're talking about. Processed foods are any foods that have been altered from their natural state, but not all processing is bad. So that's chopping, cooking, freezing. They're all forms of processing. All the things we do to foods in our own kitchens, that is minimal processing. And we're not adding chemicals that we don't recognise the names of. So we're not talking about basic processing of foods. When you take a piece of broccoli and steam it, that's a form of processing. Or you have the butcher mince up some steak for you, that's processing. But ultra-processed foods, what exactly are they? That's where the real problems lie. Because ultra-processed foods are factory made, they are loaded with artificial ingredients and refined ingredients and preservatives, and which are chemicals. And they often contain little or no real nutrition. And they're designed to be hyper palatable, so super tasty. And they're also designed to be really addictive. So think about packaged snacks, fast food snacks. Think about the Pringles. Once you've popped, you just can't stop. It's true. Once you start eating those things, you can't. They're very difficult to put down, aren't they? Fast food, sugary cereals, as I mentioned, soft drinks, frozen meals, ready meals, and even some healthy protein, so-called healthy protein bars. They aren't just convenient. They are engineered to hook you and keep you coming back for more. And when I think about the word engineered, I think about the Isambard Kingdom Brunel and the things he built in the 1800s. I think about St. Paul's Cathedral with its amazing roof, and engineering projects, that's what I think about with the word engineered, but our food is engineered as well, and our ultra-processed food has been engineered and very changed from what constitutes real food. So next step, how do these foods make you addicted? Did you know that processed foods are scientifically designed to hijack your brain? And here's how they do it. It's called bliss point engineering. Food scientists create the perfect combination of fat, salt and sugar, and it's very addictive. It lights up the dopamine centres in our brain, and dopamine being the chemical that's released when we experience pleasure, or it enables us to experience pleasure. And making these foods absolutely impossible to resist. MSG, and which you've no doubt heard of, it was the ingredient that was always famously added to Chinese takeaways. So you eat your Chinese takeaway, it tastes amazing, and then you get really thirsty afterwards, and maybe you don't sleep that well. A friend of my daughter's told me at Christmas time she was actually sprinkling MSG on her food to make it taste better. And I gave her some information about MSG and why that perhaps wasn't the best idea. It being a neurotoxin, it actually damages your brain. She's also hoping to try for a baby, and it will affect fertility. So I can't remember. I think she may have said that she'd either stopped ovulating or her period had stopped. So I suggested that she looked into this, and I gave her some information, and she stopped the MSG. Also causes awful headaches. These chemicals trick our taste buds into craving more. Refined carbs and sugars. Processed foods spike our blood sugar. You may have heard me talk about this before. That means that your blood sugar levels go way, way higher than they should do. Remember, there's only 1 teaspoon of sugar in our entire blood system naturally at any time. Just less than a teaspoon of sugar, just a very few grams of sugar in our entire system, in all the 8 pints of blood that we have inside our body. So when you eat things which have high quantities of sugar, or any sugar, even half an apple has 15 grams of carbohydrate in it. Those processed foods spike your blood sugar, gives you a quick dopamine hit, lots of insulin's released, and then 60 to 90 minutes later you get a dip, and your blood sugar's now on the floor, and you just crave the sweet foods again. You crave something else. You haven't had the nutrition because it wasn't particularly nutritious food you were eating, so your brain hasn't switched off the hunger signals, so your hunger hormones are still present as well. So you crash, and then you crave more, and you're just on this roller coaster of sugar addiction. And did you know that studies show that processed food addiction triggers the same brain pathways as hard drugs like cocaine and heroin? You may have heard about the rodent study where they gave the rodents, poor rodents, they gave them cocaine, and then after they got them hooked on the cocaine, they gave them sugar water, and they had to press a lever to make the sugar water come out. They pressed the lever until it broke. They all switched over. Now, there have also been suggestions that study was carried out on rodents that were just living in isolation in miserable little lab cages, and of course they were going to get addicted to anything that was given to them, so it wasn't really a true experiment. But it doesn't detract from the fact that these foods, it's not about willpower, it's not about you not having a strong enough ability to say no to these delicious foods. It's actually biochemical manipulation, which is a totally different story, isn't it, Mikey? So let's talk about what these foods are actually doing to your body. And this truth might actually shock you, because maybe you've never considered this before. So first off, weight gain, metabolic damage. Processed foods are calorie dense, but they're nutrient poor. So where's your ball gone? Which leads to you eat too much of them, overconsumption and stubborn fat storage. And we've certainly seen a massive increase in stubborn fat storage over my lifetime. I don't know if you're my age or older than I am. I'm 56. I remember being at school, when I was at primary school, there were 2 kids who were fat in the whole school, just 2 fat children. And I remember their names. They stuck out, obviously, because everybody else was not fat. So the 2 fat kids, the girl's name was Judith. She's super nice. She's a friend of mine. And the boy's name was Jamie, and he wasn't super nice. He was a bully and not a nice person at all. He once pushed me off my bike into the stinging nettles, so I didn't like him in the first place, and I certainly didn't like him after that. But Judith, I remember Judith saying to me that, come and sit here with me. Come and sit here. Come on, come and sit here. You mind, he's cold. I remember Judith saying to me that her mum told her that it was just puppy fat and it would all disappear once she got a bit older. And I actually remember thinking, and I must have been like 8, thinking, I wonder why she's got puppy fat, but nobody else has. Being fat back in the 70s was just, they just weren't. You've all seen those pictures of people on the beaches, in glorious beaches, covered in people in swimsuits, with hardly an ounce of fat to be seen anywhere. And it's because our food, our diet has changed so much over the last 40, 50 years that this has become such a problem. So weight gain and metabolic damage. Processed foods are calorie dense, nutrient poor, which leads to overconsumption and then stubborn fat storage. Hormone disruption. Think about that. We need our hormones for us to breed successfully. We need our hormones they're in a delicate balance. There are many of them, and they are very delicately balanced in our bodies. And when that delicate balance is thrown out, things start to go wrong. So many processed foods contain estrogen mimicking chemicals. You may have heard of estrogen. It's one of our major sex hormones. We've also got progesterone and testosterone. Men have more testosterone and less of the other two. Women have more of the estrogen and progesterone. But they're in all of us, men and women. And these foods that contain estrogen mimicking chemicals like BPA, which is bisphenol A, which is used in the production of plastic, they mess with our metabolism and they increase weight gain, as well as disrupting our hormones. And think about all the problems with people are having these days with fertility issues. Think about how many people are now struggling to conceive. Think about how many, and this isn't so commonly, oh, I thought there was a goat up there. This isn't so commonly talked about, but how many men struggle with erectile dysfunction above the age of 50? How successful was Viagra as a drug when it came onto the market? Because so many people needed to use it. That's also hormone disruption, when your sexual mechanics don't work properly anymore. They don't work properly, and no longer are people conceiving. The first point of that is that the actual machinery needs to work in the first place. Gut damage and inflammation. Artificial ingredients, emulsifiers. If you start reading ingredients and emulsifiers, choose something else. Don't eat emulsifiers. They're really bad for you. They're in a lot of ice creams. And preservatives, which destroy our gut bacteria. Our gut bacteria, and that leads to gut bloating, which I suffered from for over a decade, and pain and chronic inflammation. And chronic means it's just there all the time. You can't cure it. It's just there. It's always hurting you. And that's body-wide chronic inflammation. And it also leads to aging and glycation, which is, don't lose it, glycation is when literally the food is burning us on the inside. And if you think of it, that's a simplistic way of thinking of it, but it's why we see age spots appearing on the outside, or rosacea in the skin. Skin problems on the outside, they're not from things that are happening on the outside, they're from the things that you're putting in that are affecting the inside of your body. Aging and skin problems, high sugar and refined oils, refined seed oils, leads to this, accelerating this glycation, which leads to, oh, Mikey, wrinkles, sagging skin and premature aging. Great. Increased risk of chronic disease. Studies show that diets that are high in processed foods and are directly linked to diabetes, heart disease, autoimmune disorders, and even some cancers. Hurrah. Scary fact, research found that for every 10% increase in the consumption of ultra-processed foods, your risk of early death increases by 14%. Great. If you think you're making some healthy choices, think again, because some of the biggest culprits are hiding in your food. There's the hidden sugars. Look for the sneaky names. high fructose corn syrup or dextrose or fructose. Fructose, it sounds healthy, doesn't it? It sounds like it comes from fruit. Maltodextrin. Agave nectar, there's a good one. When that was invented, or when that came into the food chain, which was probably, I don't know, 20 years ago, I just thought that was great because it was not sugar. It was and it apparently didn't spike your blood sugar, and it was lower on the glycemic index than real sugar or refined sugar. So I just thought, oh, this is amazing. I put it on my cakes. Used to make a lot of cakes 20 years ago. There's over 100 names for sugar. And when I looked up a list to see what the 100 names were, I pulled up a page that said the 50 most common names for sugar. I thought, 50 most common? There's more than 100 different names for sugar. And they are hidden in your ingredient list, so always check the ingredients. And you know also that on an ingredients list, whatever comes up, they are in order of how much is in that food. So if sugar or dextrose or high fructose corn syrup is up near the top, then don't buy it, because it's mainly, that is the main ingredient. Seed oils. If you don't know about the dangers of seed oils, then you must have been living under a rock for the last 5 years. I think it's been coming into the mainstream press about how dangerous seed oils are. And we're talking corn oil, canola oil, sunflower oil, just, what do they call it? Cooking oil. Just like some vague ingredient name, cooking oil. It's highly processed. It's dangerously heated to dangerously high carcinogenic levels. It's industrially produced and many chemicals used in its production. And do you know what it was invented for? When it was first invented, seed oil, when they first came up with the ability to extract these oils from seeds, which was about, I think it was like 100 years ago. Don't quote me on that. They were used for cleaning machinery. That's what the Industrial Revolution was all about, wasn't it? The invention of these amazing machines that could take over the jobs from humans and do things much more efficiently for us. To clean the machinery and then to clean the tractors and clean the farm machinery as well, they used oils, and these highly processed seed oils, that's what they were used for. And somebody, some bright spark, decided at some point that we could get them into the food chain. And here we are today with all these problems because we all are eating these seed oils. And do you know also that when you stop eating seed oil, like I've done, largely, sometimes you might get one or two sneak in, and it's difficult if you eat out in restaurants because you just know that they're using seed oils because they're cheap, aren't they? They're not going to just use olive oil, which is healthy, cold-pressed olive oil, unless they're stating it and it's a really high-caliber restaurant. Same with animal-based fats. They're much more expensive. Think about butter and real beef tallow, how expensive it is compared to a bottle of cooking oil. It takes, I think it's 5 or 7 years for your body to get rid of the last vestiges of those seed oils that you've eaten. If you stop eating them today, you're looking at 5 to 7 years of your body processing those, getting rid of those things out of your tissues, because your body stores away this stuff in the tissues so that your liver doesn't have to deal with it all at once, because it would kill you. And we don't want that. Artificial sweeteners, aspartame, sucralose, saccharin. What other ones have we got? There's many. They've been linked to gut imbalances, and you might think, yeah, my gut's a bit imbalanced. Your gut is the centre of everything. It's the most important thing because it's digesting your food for you. And if your food isn't digested properly, you're not absorbing minerals and vitamins and protein and fats and all the other things we need to make our bodies work successfully. We need our gut to be working optimally. And when it isn't working optimally, other things start to go wrong. And then your joints start to hurt. And we don't make the connection because in Western medicine, we just treat the symptoms. So the doctor gives you something for your wrist, or you've got terrible acid reflux, so he gives you a medication to give you less stomach acid, but doesn't look at why the problems happened in the first place and how to get to the root cause. Leads to gut imbalances and increased cravings. More problems. Preservatives and emulsifiers. BHT. Now, I did look that one up because I didn't know what BHT stood for, and it stands for, here we have it, butylated hydroxytoluene. Doesn't that sound lovely? It's also known as dibutyl hydroxytoluene, and it's a lipophilic, sorry, there's a raindrop on there, lipophilic organic compound. Chemically, a derivative of phenol that is useful for its antioxidant properties. No thanks, I don't want any in any of my foods. So, preservatives and emulsifiers like BHT, polysorbate 80, there's another one, and carrageenan, which I always thought carrageenan sounded like it might be quite healthy. It isn't. They've been shown to cause hormonal issues and digestive problems. So hormonal issues, again, we're coming back to fertility, thyroid. Hormonal issues will cause weight problems, weight gain, unexplained weight gain, the inability to lose weight after a certain age, but you can't lose it like you did in your 20s. And again, those digestive problems. Rule of thumb, if a food has more than 5 ingredients, put it back. Read ingredients, go into supermarkets. When I started doing this, which was quite a long time ago, oh, I thought he was going to knock the camera over. It used to take me ages to go shopping, but that was when I was still shopping the inside aisles, which I don't bother with anymore. Now I just buy whole foods and I make them into things which I want to eat, and then you're pretty safe. But I do buy a few things with a few more ingredients, so always check. And if you can't pronounce it, if you can't pronounce an ingredient, like I could hardly pronounce that word I just told you, don't buy it. Don't buy that food. So how do you detox from these processed foods? I had to start walking again because it's quite chilly in Andorra today, where I live, up in the mountains, and it's not actually, there's not much snow just here, but it's fresh enough. First off, eat whole single ingredient foods. Picture foods with one ingredient like eggs, meat, fish, vegetables, fruits, nuts and real dairy. And I look for raw dairy wherever possible as well, because it has a whole lot more nutrients in it than the stuff that's been ultra heat treated, or in other words, pasteurised, which we've also been led to believe over the years that raw dairy was very bad for us. That's being disputed by many people around the world now. Make your cooking simple. Focus on whole foods, do batch cooking, and just use easy recipes that are simple to follow to avoid the temptation of eating fast food. How easy is it to make an omelette? It's just like one of the simplest dishes you can produce. Super good for you. Plenty of protein if you make it with enough eggs and some cheese. You could put some meat or some fish into there, and it cooks in less time than it would take you to order something in. There really is no excuse. And there's so much information out there. There's so many recipes that you can follow. It's just a case of buying the real ingredients and combining them into a tasty concoction that you want to eat. And read labels religiously. If you are religious, make that your religion. Flip the package over. Don't be tricked or fall for fancy marketing claims. Have a look at what's in it. And if you don't recognise those ingredients, or they look highly dodgily chemical, then perhaps just put it back. And control your environment. If it's not in the house, then you're not going to be able to eat it. So if you haven't bought it in the first place, and if you have got stuff in the house that you, after watching this, you think, perhaps better have a look through my cupboards, get rid of it. Donate it. If you don't want to just pop it in the bin. It is a bit of a waste. I know when I first cleared out all my cupboards a few years ago and decided to stop eating several types of food, it feels you've spent the money and you really should eat it, but think of the harm it could be doing in your body, and you might start thinking differently about foods. Listen to your body. When you cut out processed foods, you'll notice more energy, clearer skin, better digestion and fewer cravings. You might also notice an absence of joint pain, an absence of painful gut bloating, which I definitely noticed. You might notice your sleep gets better. There are so many advantages to when we stop eating this junk food. And if you're really craving something sweet, because if you're trying to give up sugar, I won't lie, it's hell. In the first month, it's horrible giving up sugar because you just want it so badly. And once you've got rid of it, it's just such an amazing freedom feeling because you no longer crave it. But it is hard. And there's nothing takes away from how hard it is when you first give up sugar. But if you really want chocolate, have some really dark chocolate, like 85% chocolate. That's only got a little bit of sugar in it. And when you first taste it, you might not even like it initially, but it can become something that you really look forward to once you've got rid of the sugar cravings. And berries, or make a homemade smoothie, don't buy one. Make a smoothie out of half a banana and just some berries and put some yogurt in there. There are so many ways you can eat things which are low in sugar, but will be so much better for your health. And once those cravings are gone, it's magical, I tell you. It's just amazing when you just don't need to eat that kind of food anymore. It no longer has a hold over you. So now that I've shared some of the truths about processed foods, it's time for you to take action. And how about doing a 7-day processed food detox challenge? Drop a message in the comments if you're up for that. You can start swapping out processed foods for whole, natural ingredients, and you'll notice how quickly your energy, your digestion and your cravings all improve. Share your progress in the comments. We want to hear about your results, or tell us if you've already done this and tell us how it was for you. If you found this video helpful, please hit like and subscribe, and let me know what's one processed food that you're ready to ditch today. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.